Kelly, I believe your line is muted, but we invite you to unmute.
Oh, how about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I especially want to thank Adam for stepping in at the last minute. We did have another speaker scheduled and that person had to cancel a couple of hours ago. And Adam, being the great male ally that he is, said, yes, I'd be happy to share a few words. So thank you so much, Adam. And now it's my distinct honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Ted Bunch. Ted is an author, educator, activist, and lecturer working to end all forms of violence and discrimination against women and girls. He is the Chief Development Officer of A Call to Men and is internationally recognized for his efforts to prevent violence against women while promoting a healthy, respectful manhood. He is the leading voice on male socialization. And I have personally seen him speak at other conferences, and I always take away really great nuggets of gold from his presentation. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Ted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Good evening, everybody. Great to see you. My regards from humid and hot New York. I understand you're experiencing the same weather. I'm not going to complain, though. So thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Ellie, who we'll hear from later, Kevin, and Adam as well. Thank you all very much. So I'm really honored to be here with the Women's Fund, and I really appreciate the leadership and vision of the Women's Fund in doing this work. When we look at gender equity, whether it's violence against women, workplace equity, equity at home, which has been really exposed in the last year, what equity at home looks like and how male privilege shows up there, right? A lot of things that have been invisible have become visible for us as men. And part of that, we mentioned the word privilege earlier, whether it's gender privilege or whether it's race privilege, it's something that we're all born into. We've inherited it, right? And we have it whether we want it or not. It's just the way it is, right? So I want to unpack that a little bit, but also really talk about the importance of men using our influence and platform, raising our voice, our sharing within our homes, our community, in our social networks, wherever it is in our workplace, looking at ways that we can do more and be more involved. And I'm really happy to be here with the 100 men and to see all the men that are here today. So I have a lot to cover. I'm going to share my screen if you don't mind, and I'm going to open up a PowerPoint presentation. I'll be coming off screen from time to time to get some input from folks. And I'm going to be asking just for the, I'm going to be asking the male identified participants more questions than others because I really want to expose our collective socialization, right? How we've been taught to be men and how we pass that down in our society. So let me share my screen. Well, let me just bring this up first though. Do I have any men here who are fathers of daughters? You can raise your hand. Okay, great. Any men who are fathers of sons? Do I have any moms here? All right, great. Okay, I'm gonna ask two of the men, just give me the age of your daughters. John, would you give me the age of your daughter?
Yep, I have twins who are 15.
Okay, great, thank you. Adam, what about you?
My daughter is 11.
Great, okay. Let me just share a little something with you. I'm gonna use your daughter, Adam, as an example, if you don't mind, with my daughter. What is your daughter's name?
Her name is Lily.
Lily, okay. So this is why it's important as men that we're a part of the solution. Because what we've been taught is that we're supposed to be responsible for the women in our lives, right? That's what we're supposed to be responsible for. But outside of that, if other women are being impacted in negative ways, that's really not our concern. That's part of how patriarchy is set up, really, right? That's the structure and the construct of patriarchy. So my daughter Maya she's 31 now. She's my oldest. She's 31 and she went away to school. We live on Long Island and she went away to University of Virginia in Charlottesville. It's about a 6-hour drive. So if Maya needed me and I had to respond to Maya's needs, it would take me about 6 hours to get there by car. Now, Adam and John, you can just shake your head whether you agree with this. Would that be a difficult 6 hours for you if your daughters needed you to get to them and they were needed? Yes. It brings up emotions for me just bringing it up hypothetically to you because I don't like to think about it. So Maya's 6 hours away. She's in her last year at UVA, going into her senior year, and wanted to live off campus. She was really tired of the dorm life. She wanted to live off campus with 2 other young women who are also UVA students. Her mom and I went down to look at a place. We chose a place, everyone agreed. And I'm driving back to New York and Maya calls me and asks me, Dad, when you come back down, will you bring me a pair of your old shoes or boots? Now, anyone can unmute yourself and just tell me, why would she want a pair of my old shoes or boots? Anyone, just unmute yourself. What do you think?
Hi, this is Kevin here. I've seen in the past that they do that to represent that there's like a man in the home.
Okay, so to give the impression that there's a man in the home, so she's gonna put those outside the door. But why does she need to give the impression that there's a man in the house? Anybody? What's that about?
To discourage intruders.
So it's a deterrent. So she feels, so she'll feel less at risk, that she'll feel some sort of protection. Now, well, first of all, I'm gonna just ask the dads here, just shake your head. Do you think I got her the boots? What do you think? Yes, listen, I wear a size 11. I wanted to buy 16, dip them in mud and put bloodstains on the toe. Because Adam, you know they can't be big enough, John. They can't be big enough, right? So Maya wants them outside the door. I get them for her, of course, right? But because she feels at risk. Now, when we look at men's violence in Rhode Island or whether in New York or anywhere else in our country, the majority of men are not going to be harmful. It's probably about 15% of men who are going to perpetrate a domestic violence or a sexual assault. Most men are not. 85, 90% of us are not. But does she put the shoes outside the door 15% of the time? No, 100% of the time, because she doesn't know who is a danger to her. And if we had time and I asked the women on this call, or if you ask the women in your life, men, do you do things on a daily basis to feel less at risk for the violence that men perpetrate, and ask them to answer that? They will be able to tell you yes. Every woman does, though most men are not going to harm them, but the threat of it is always there. It's the leading cause of injury to women. Have they ever been sexually harassed? Absolutely. Every woman has experienced that. And that's why, and honestly, if we're honest with ourselves, men, 3 years ago when Me Too became elevated and we're all kind of looking around like, whoa, right? What's happening here, men? Because we all know that on some level, well, let me put it this way. I haven't met a man who hasn't either, at some point in his life, sexually objectified a woman or witnessed another man doing it and did nothing about it. He does not exist. And the reason why I know he does not exist is because the way that you prove that you're a man in this male socialization, in this man box, is to objectify women. That's one of the tests we have to pass. Think about the young man in your community right now. Wonderful, the high school senior. Let's make him a junior. Let's make him a little younger. Good kid. His name's John. He's going to take a junior in the high school, a young woman out. Her name's Kathy. John gets on a group text. He's going to take her to a movie. And he tells a couple of his buddies he's going to take her to a movie. So this is their first time spending time together, Kathy and John. Kathy's agreed. John gets on a group text with a couple of his buddies, also juniors in the high school in your community or your neighborhood, that kid, the good kid in your neighborhood. And he takes her out. He gets on a group text with them, says, hey guys, we'll go to the movies with Kathy. I'll hit you guys up later, right? They give him a little bit of crap for that because they're 17 years old. So they give him a little crap, but that's okay. He takes her to the movie, takes her home, perfect gentleman, gets back on the group text and says, hey, I'm back from the movie, and I'm going to ask the men, somebody to unmute yourself. he says to his buddies who are 17, 16 years old, I'm back from the movie. Is the first thing that those young men ask him is, how was the movie? What do you think they're asking him? Anybody? This is not your thoughts. It's what you know the young kids to be thinking. Come on, give it to me, guys. Come on. It's okay. It's a safe space.
No, the friends will ask about what happened with them, if
Not only
what
what
base
happened.
they got to.
How far did you
Right.
get?
What base? Right. Did you get to second base, third base? Right. Did you get anything? Did she put out? And if John says so, these boys know what John's supposed to be. If you're spending time with Kathy, there's one thing you're supposed to be interested in. And if you're not, so if John says, well, I'm not trying to get anything, I'm just trying to see if, maybe we can be friends, see if I like her. Then they'll have some words for him with that too. And what might they say in that situation? Based on your experience with men and young men.
Are you gay?
Right. Are you gay? You don't like girls? There's something wrong with you? So they're then saying their socialization, where are they learning this from? Men like us, the 85 and 90%, not the 10 and 12% of the population. They're learning it from us. Now, we're not trying to harm women, but we're passing these messages down, this collective socialization, this man box that we're expected to live in all the time. So these boys are raised up in this man box. So they know by the time they're 16 and 17, if John's not trying to get anything, then there's something wrong with John, and that they have to say things to him that actually punish him for not living up to the expectations that they think they're supposed to live up to based on what the generation above them has passed down to them, and that's us. Now, this is not an indictment on manhood. It's just an invitation to look at things differently. We're good men. Right? This is not an indictment. It's not about calling somebody out. It's actually about calling people in. Because this man box, which I'm going to unpack a little bit, is not only harmful to women and girls and to the queer community, but to men and boys. We're dying 6 years earlier than women from stress-related illnesses, and because we don't think we need to ask for help when we need help. Because asking for help is a sign of weakness. Being vulnerable is a sign of weakness. Those are the things that are killing us. So when we look at this, when we unpack this and how we pass this down to our boys, we really have to take some responsibility for it, the messages that we give. If I ask you all, I have a 6-year-old boy who's learning how to throw a baseball, it's baseball season, and he's with his dad, his coach, his big brother, his uncle, and this is our socialization now. It doesn't mean you believe this, but you know the answer. If you know the answer, then you've been socialized to know the answer. He's 6 years old. His dad, uncle, big brother is saying, while he's throwing the baseball, son, you have to throw harder than that. You throw like a... You all know the answer to that.
Girl, you throw like a
Right.
girl.
Now, girls throw just fine. And doesn't mean that you believe the answer, but you know it. That's our collective socialization. It's the hum of the refrigerator. You don't hear it until you pay attention. Then it's like, oh yeah, it's still on. That's how privilege plays out also, y'all. Whether it's gender, race, class, right? So that collective socialization, do you think that 6-year-old boy leaves that interaction with that man or big brother or uncle who he's looking up to, who he wants the approval? You think he leaves that interaction thinking that girls are equal to him or less than him? Less than, how can he not? And we give these messages everywhere. Now, I'll give you an example. I've been doing this work. We founded the organization 20 years ago, A Call to Men. I was doing the work probably 5 years before that. I was running the largest domestic violence program in the United States for domestic violence offenders, batterers program in New York City, 600 men a week. So I was doing this work for a long time. It was probably, my oldest son is 24 now. He was probably about 10 when I stopped doing something. Now, I'm saying this because I'm doing this work, promoting healthy manhood, working to eradicate sexism, all those things, but I still have blind spots. Even with race, as woke as you might be as a white person, you're gonna still have blind spots. That's why you need the voices of people of color around you to show you or to hear what you're saying, in the same way that I need women and queer folks around me to address my sexism and my heterosexism, because I'm socialized in that way also. The only difference is I'm aware of it. So I can see through lenses that are a little bit clearer. So I think sometimes, sometimes they don't seem clear at all. Like in this instance with Joshua, who's now 24, he was about 10. I'm going out to do one of these presentations, Healthy Manhood, right? Eradicating sexism, promoting healthy manhood. When I go out, it was, I was probably traveling once or twice a week then, going on a plane. So I would kiss everybody goodbye. And Josh, my oldest son now, my oldest son would always be the one to walk me to the car. He'd pull my laptop bag behind him. It was a father and son moment. When I would leave town now, and I'm leaning down to my oldest son, and I lean down to him, and I kiss him, and I hug him, and say, okay, son, now you. Somebody finish that sentence for me.
Man of the house.
You're the man of the house. Take care of things around here. Take care of your mother. You got it, son? I got it, Dad. He ain't got shit. What does he have? He's 10 years old. Now, that was a wonderful moment up to that point for me with this father and son thing. But it occurred to me in that moment, now these are great lessons. It's a lesson that dads are teaching their sons. We're teaching him to be a protector. That's a good thing. To be responsible. That's a great thing. To be accountable. That's a good thing. So it's not an indictment on fatherhood, but we're teaching him that lesson at the expense of his mother, in the same way we're teaching that boy to throw harder at the expense of girls. You see that, folks? Do men see that? Just nod to me and say, yeah, I see what you're talking about. You see how we do that? I'm literally passing down the male privilege and entitlements that have been given to me, that I did not earn by this patriarchal society. I'm literally passing it down to my 10-year-old son and say, okay, take care of this, son. Because what I'm really saying is that she needs, take care of it because she can't. You're the man of the house because she needs one. And I'm passing down that privilege to him. This is yours, take care of it. Now, is there a man on the phone who's married to a woman? Just raise your hand. All right, Bryce. Can you tell me your wife's name?
She's on the call as well, Sandra Victorino.
Okay, great. Well, all right, Sandra, you're gonna appreciate this. Okay, Sandra, Bryce.
Yep.
I'm gonna bet my paycheck that when you're not there, Sandra's got it. What would you say to that?
Oh, 100%.
I'm also gonna bet that when you are there, Sandra makes sure you got what you're supposed to get.
Yep.
Because women are capable, they're actually very capable, but we act like they're not. And the women in the congregation said, amen. You see how this thing works? So this is not the men who are domestic violence abusers or sexual people doing sexual assault or intentionally harming women. This is men who are trying to live the right way, but we're part of this problem. If women could have ended men's violence against them, they would have. We wouldn't have to have this conversation. If women could have created equity, they would have. We wouldn't have to have this conversation. It really falls on men. Okay, have I opened the presentation yet? No, huh? Okay, let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Okay. Thank you, Bryce. All right. Okay. All right, I'm gonna skip through some of this because we covered a little bit, but let me play this video. Talks about the issues. Oops, sorry. Thanks.
As men, we have unwritten rules and agreements, unnegotiated deals, and codes of silence that other men come to expect from us. This collectively defines many aspects of our manhood. I remember asking a 12-year-old boy, a football player, so how would you feel if your coach told you in front of all the other players that you're playing like a girl? I thought he would say I'd be mad, I'd be angry, I'd be sad. But no, the boy told me it would destroy me. I said, wow. If it would destroy him being told that he's playing like a girl, what are we as men teaching him about girls? If we continue to treat women and girls as if they are of less value, the property of men and sexual objects, we continue to maintain a culture that reinforces discrimination and abuse towards them.
It is important to rethink and reshape how we as men have been taught to act and behave. We need to hold on to the many wonderful aspects of manhood and remove those things that hold us back.
We need to stop laughing and begin challenging inappropriate comments made about women and girls. We need to educate ourselves, our sons, and other young men and boys.
Our liberation as men is directly tied to the liberation of women.
Let's be the solution.
Code Men works with men and women to create a world where all men and all boys are loving and respectful, and all women and girls are valued and safe.
Help us create a new world by being part of the next generation of manhood.
That's what we want to. That's what we want to create. Okay, I'm going to go now to another video. This is from Always.
Hi, Erin. Hi. Okay, so I'm going to just give you some actions to do. I just do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Here. Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl. Aw.
My name is Dakota and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, I don't know what it really, if it's a bad thing or a good thing. Sounds like a bad thing. Sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down, because during that time, they're already trying to figure themselves out. And when somebody says you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swim like a girl?
Keep doing it because it's working. If somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing, that's their problem. Because if you're still scoring and you're still getting to the ball on time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. Doesn't matter what they say. I mean, yes, I kick like a girl and I swim like a girl and I walk like a girl and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that is not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm going to do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Would you like a chance to redo it?
Yeah. Why can't run like a girl also mean win the race?
Okay, great, Ed. I wanted to share with you we have a live respect curriculum, and I'm bringing this up only for one reason. It's for high school and middle school students. We also have a book of dares, which is for elementary school students. 100 ways for boys to be kind, bold, and brave. You'll see it over my shoulder. But I bring up the live respect curriculum because we surveyed boys all around the country, boys like the boys in your community and boys in my community, all over, a very intentionally diverse group of boys. And we asked them something, and this is what I want to share with you all. We asked them when we were creating the curriculum with Scholastic, we wrote it with Scholastic, we asked them a number of things as we're writing the curriculum. One of the things we asked them was, can you define consent? And only 19% of boys, I'm talking about the boys in your community and mine, could define consent. 8 out of 10 boys could not. So what does that tell us? That informs a lot. It tells us about sexual assault in the military, why it's so high, about why sexual assault on college campuses is so high, about why girls between the ages of 16 and 24 are at the highest risk for being sexually assaulted. Maya with the shoes outside the door. Our boys think no means try harder because we don't give them those boundaries early on with girls. We don't teach them value early on with girls. A little 5-year-old boy is hitting a girl hits a girl on the playground. You know, it's not unusual to hear a parent say to another parent, oh, he just likes her, instead of teaching that what boundaries are and about valuing someone. So I wanted to share that with you because, again, it talks to the socialization. And also, we asked those boys, well, if you are having sex, right? Now, my kids, I talked to as they were growing up about abstinence, but I also talked to them about if you are having sex, we need to have this conversation too, because it is 2021. And by the way, folks, depending on what research you looked at, the average age of a boy seeing pornography is about 8 to 11, depending on the research you look at. Now, this pornography is right on the phone. You don't have to look anywhere. It's right here. It's not like you have to go search for it. And it's extreme pornography. The pornography that is available online now wouldn't have even been sold in pornography shops when I was their age. It's extreme. So the boys are learning all of these messages around the women and girls are objects and that they have less value and that they're also the property of men. We'll talk about that a little bit. But we asked them, if you are having sex and she wants to stop, can she? 41% said no, she cannot change her mind. This is a serious thing. So dads, we need to have conversations with our boys around boundaries, around respect, around consent. I know it can feel awkward to have the conversations, but we need to have it. Because what often happens also is our kids one-on-one can have the right answers for us, but they get a group with other boys and to be able to assert them doing the right thing when the other boys may not want to is a really difficult thing. Think about it for yourself as a man. If one of your friends is saying a sexist joke even, are you confronting him on that? Are you saying, hey man, that's not cool? Hopefully you are, because in 2021, we can say things like, hey, we don't do that anymore, right? Whether it's around race or whether it's around gender, I mean, it's really is a pretty simple conversation. We don't do that anymore. That's not cool, right? Okay, let me keep moving here. We basically spoke about this. Let me keep it going. So there's this concept called the man box. This is a term that we created at A Call to Men. And you can imagine all the things that are in the man box. And I'm gonna just share some of them because I wanna be mindful of time. The man box, being tough, being aggressive, dominant, not asking for help, right? Being in charge, demonstrating power and control, especially over women in our lives, sexually objectifying women, seeing women as sexual objects, seeing women as the property of men. Because think about it, if I'm in Rhode Island and I see a man right now, today in 2021, hitting his wife or girlfriend, and I walk over to him and say, knock it off, what does he say to me? Generally, he says, mind your business, right? That's our collective socialization. We never had a conversation about what the answer to that is. We just know. That's our collective socialization. Back to the patriarchy and male dominance again. Also, part of the man box is not showing emotion except for anger, right? So let me play this for you. I'm gonna play this, and then I just want a few reactions. This is a beautiful young boy. He's probably 2 years old. He's getting a vaccination on his arm, and you see the nurse's hand. You'll see another, she'll give him another vaccination on his other arm, and you're gonna hear his dad's voice. His dad's there in the doctor's office with him. But I just wanna process it a little bit with you all. So I'm gonna share this, and I'll bring it back to gallery view so we can talk for a moment.
Give me your hand. Hold your hand, okay? Got it? Okay, you looking scared. Yeah, I know. You're a big boy, right?
Ready? Okay, I'm gonna count to 3 and say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, okay? Wanna look at that?
Look at me. Say cheese. Big boy. Big boy. Be a man. Oh, big boy, don't cry. You got it. Don't cry. Don't cry. Be a man. Yeah. Oh, big boy. High five. High five. Say you a man. I'm a man. Say you can't say it. I'm sorry. So I'm gonna laugh at you. It's okay. It's okay.
High five. Big high five.
It's
Good
okay.
job.
Okay.
Come down. We'll come down. 1, 2, 3.
You gotta say it. I'm a man. You can't say I'm a man. High five.
You did awesome.
I'm turning the camera on so you.
Okay. Let me stop sharing here. Just 1 second. All right. So I want to ask you all, anyone can respond, what you liked, what your concerns were, what would you do differently? I just want to hear from a few people because time only allows us to do that, but let me just stop the sharing. Okay. Okay.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead. JG.
JG, hey, it's JG. Yeah, man. Thanks. It's yeah, that was painful. That was really hard to watch. That was really hard to watch. And it was like, yeah, there was no malice on the dad's part. He had no idea that he was, what he was doing. That's how he was socialized. But just to watch that little boy, it's just painful. It's hard to watch. And then on another level, it's like truly a missed opportunity. It's such a missed opportunity. But yeah, that's all. I don't want to take up time, but that's hard to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone else? One more comment.
I think that the doctor was hard to watch too. She was a part of the entrenched culture that led to sort of this subconscious reinforcement of what that little boy is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
Right.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so this is not an indictment on that father at all. You can hear in his voice he loves his son, right? He's just, again, passing this socialization down. We're just on remote control with it, right? We're just on remote control with it. And this is extreme, or it can be seen as extreme, but many of us have experienced things like that on another level about be a man, man up, suck it up, right? All those things, especially when we talk to our boys about crying, we teach them to not cry. And when we teach them to not cry, we're teaching them to not feel. They don't know the difference. And then we grow up to be men who don't have a lot of literacy around our emotions, right? So for the women on the call who might be involved with a man, and it's like, why doesn't he share what he's feeling? Well, he doesn't really know what he's feeling, right? We've never developed language for it, except for one emotion that we are allowed to express is anger. And that's what that video shows also, is that our pain and hurt is really what we're experiencing first, but we're not allowed to share that. Because if we share that, other men in particular ridicule us for that. Because those emotions are supposed to be for women. And if you have those emotions and you share those, somehow you're not man in this, again, this man box culture. So you're seen as less than. So this is harmful. This is what's killing men, right? I mean, there's a direct line between that and us living 6 years less than women. Right? And it's not to say that we shouldn't expect our kids to fight through things, but this shot. I mean, if he had a twin daughter who is now coming in to get her vaccination, would he say the same thing? No, he'd pick her up. He'd let her know that he's there. He'd reassure her. So he has the tools, but we don't apply those to our boys because we think that we're supposed to make them this tough kind of non-feeling person, and that's harmful to all of us. And as a result, we grow up to be, not all of us, but some men take that and that shows in other ways, whether it's hurting other people or self-destructive. With men, death by suicide is 3.5 times higher among men than among women. Among male identified youth is higher than female identified youth. And when we look at the queer community and suicide with youth in particular, it's higher because they're punished even more so for being outside of this man box culture. So when we talk about gender-based violence, we're talking about all of those things. All right, great, folks, thanks. I'm gonna share my screen again and go back to this presentation. So the man box, we've covered some of these things, but women and girls are objects and property of men and seen as having less value. Boys and men should not cry or openly express emotion. Boys and men should not show fear or weakness. We're not supposed to act like a girl, that's in quotes. Boys and men should be decisive, not ask for help or offer help or accept help. You know, it took me a long time to accept help, even if I'm moving things when I was a younger man, I'm moving things, you know, I got 4 bags. No, put the other one on my back. You need any help? No, I got it. You need me to open the door? No, I can do it. Like nuts, right? So, but I shouldn't say nuts. It's our socialization, right? And being aggressive equals dominance. And aggression has its place, right? I know you all in the New England area. I don't know if anybody plays sports. You might be a runner or a tennis or you like sports. But if you want to be competitive and win whatever you're doing, you have to be, aggression has its place, right? But it doesn't work in our personal lives. All right. And then outside of the man box, anything associated with being a man, anything associated with being a gay man, and gay men are men, trans men are men, but this man box, the glue that keeps the man box together is homophobia and heterosexism, right? So it's a construct. It's a heterosexual construct. So if you're not that, you're outside of that construct. Being sensitive, being vulnerable, being weak, showing emotion, and needing to man up. Even if we ask men, there's been men in my life that I've seen have real issues. You can see their world is coming apart. And if you ask them, hey man, how you doing? Most men are gonna say, I'm good. Even though you know he's not good. He knows he's not good, but he doesn't know what else to say, right? Because it's never been safe to say anything else, right? And again, I'm talking generalities here. I'm not talking about every case, right? And then if you lean in a little bit and say, oh man, you don't seem like you're good, he might look at you like, hey, I said I was good. You're not supposed to ask another question, right? That's not, we don't process things like that, right? That's how we're taught not to process things. So these are the things that are harmful and they impact men and women and everyone else. So, whoops, I don't need to go into that. So this man box holds us hostage. So it distances ourselves from the experiences of women and girls and the LGBTQ, transgender, non-conforming community. This distancing, the man box, right? It distances us from their experience and also distances us from our own humanity. From our own humanity. The liberation of men is directly tied to the liberation of women. So that collective socialization does that, and we pass it down to our boys. So it also stops us from being our full, authentic selves, right? That lack of interest in what's happening to women, except the women and girls in our life, right? But the women in the workplace maybe, or in our community, that lack of interest stops, it creates that distance and creates a lack of interest, but also stops us from being our authentic selves. And let me just share with you about authenticity. It reinforces the binary as well, the man box, the male, female, he, she, and that's why I see a number of people have their pronouns. Well, why is that important, right? It's important because we're making visible what's not visible. We're recognizing that, and I'm not saying everyone should do it, but this is why it's done in my, well, this is why I do it. Making what's visible, what's invisible visible, recognizing that there's more than just a binary, that there's a spectrum, right? And hopefully folks who are not necessarily conforming to that binary feel that I recognize that, right? That's about not even inclusion, but belonging, right? It's about belonging. Inclusion is not enough. It's about a sense of belonging. So when we talk about authenticity, and I just want to stop for a minute and share with you all a lesson I learned around authenticity. So for the first 10 years of my marriage or so, I would bring flowers home every week or every 2 weeks to my wife, and she would like that, right? And you know, if she had some of her women friends over, her girlfriends over, they'd say, wow, he's still bringing you flowers 10 years in, what a great guy, all that kind of stuff. But you know what? If I didn't bring the flowers home, Desiree wasn't asking, where are the flowers? If I didn't bring the flowers home, you know who missed the flowers? I did. It took me 10 years to recognize that I'm bringing flowers home because I like the way flowers look. I like the way they smell when I come in the house. You see my peonies over my shoulder. I always have flowers around. That's my authentic self. But it took me 10 years to come to the realization that, oh, wait a minute. I wasn't bringing them home because I like them, because if I did that, that somehow didn't fit into this manhood that I expected I'm supposed to be in. Like, what does that say to others? Not so much to me, but to others about who I am, which is homophobia, right? So heterosexism is a form of discrimination. Homophobia is the fear of being perceived as gay, right? So homophobia and heterosexism, based on my understanding, homophobia and heterosexism is all in that. Me bringing flowers home for her when I really want the flowers, right? So now, being my full authentic self, I go to the florist and I'm very different with the florist now that I know it's for me and that I can embrace all of that. And I'm picking out flowers, I'm putting combinations together. Do I want them in a vase? No, thank you. You know why? Because I'm gonna arrange them at home because I like arranging flowers, right? So that's, and I think that if we had time, every man or every male identified person has a story like that, where I didn't do something because of what society said about me doing that based on my gender, or based on how my gender is defined. Okay, so sharing my screen again, folks. I know I'm coming up on my time, so let me hustle through this. So I want to talk about authenticity. Someone who's taught me the most about authenticity is this young man right here. This is my now 19. He was 15 at his first Pride parade. He came out at 15. We were waiting for him to come out to fully embrace him and celebrate him, because I had expected from the time he was about 2 years old, when he could crawl, he was crawling to everything that was feminine. If there were girls or boys, he's crawling to the girls. He was much more interested. It just, now I'm not saying that every boy who does that is gay, but I know, you know your children. And it was clear to me. He's in his mother's closet looking for shoes, not in mine, trying to put my boots on. This is how he's always been. So we were so excited about him coming out. And he's taught me a lot about authenticity, being his full authentic self. He's now a sophomore at Boston Conservatory of Music, musical theater major. Boston Conservatory at Berkeley. So we caught him in a dance here. And then I had this painting commission that's called Breaking Out of the Man Box. We caught him in a leap. That's hanging up in his room. Okay, so our collective socialization, I've talked about this. Those three things, objectification, property, less value, creating environments where violence against women, violence and discrimination against women, girls, and the LGBTQ, transgender, nonconforming community, it exists, and we become desensitized to it. And it looks like this, whether it's sexual harassment, stalking, domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, rape, porn, it's all built upon that collective socialization, men who cause harm and those of us who are silent about the harm. Because while the overwhelming majority of violence against women and against the queer community is men's violence, the overwhelming majority of men are not violent, but we're silent about those that are, and that's as much of the problem as the violence and discrimination is. And that's what 100 Men is really about, and the foundation is really a leader and a visionary in creating this. So, and then just to wrap up, I want to connect it to mental health concerns, right? Our inability to ask for help, to identify our emotions, create mental challenges for us. The American Psychological Association in 2018 put a guide for psychological practices with boys and men for therapists and psychiatrists, really noting that traditional masculinity, and again, we're not throwing out everything, right? There's many things in the man box that are really good. Being a protector, being a provider, that's really good. But women protect and provide too, right? Being strong is very good, but women are strong too. So, and there's different strength. It doesn't mean physical strength. There's all kinds of ways to be strong. So we're not throwing everything out, but we're much more than that, actually. These are just some statistics. I shared them with you. Let me just go to that third one though. Male suicide has been on the rise since 2000. 3.5 times as many men die from suicide than women. Gay and bisexual men are more likely to develop mental health disorders, and gay males are at an increased risk for suicide, especially before the ages of 25, for all the reasons we talked about, right? I'm going to the second bullet. More than 40% of men don't go to the doctor at all unless they have serious health issues. So we don't go to prevent things. We go for intervention, right? Generally, men don't go when most times doctors are saying, you should have come to me 6 months ago when you started having the symptoms, right? But again, we're at that point in our socialization where we don't want to ask for help, or we're doing so many things to be productive that we keep putting it off. There's all kinds of reasons why, but the point is we don't put our health first, and that's mental health as well. Men suffer a much higher rate of anxiety and depression that goes undiagnosed than women do as well, because again, we're not asking for the help, and we see going to a therapist as something that's a sign of weakness. Okay. So here, I'll leave it here at healthy manhood. Embracing and expressing a full range of emotions, validating the feelings of other men and boys, being willing to cry, being vulnerable, allowing oneself and others to ask for help and offer help, valuing the lives of women, girls, and those in the queer community, treating all people equally and promoting the betterment of humanity, never using control or violence, never using gender-based attributes to bully or discriminate, looking at our language, investing in, never using language that denigrates women and girls, having an interest in women and girls outside of a sexual conquest, modeling healthy behavior, and using our influence and platform. My son, my oldest son, he was an athlete, Joshua, and he asked me to dye his socks pink because men who were other professional football players dyed their socks pink and wore pink during October. And then boys started wearing pink on the sports field. And you could go to Dick's Sporting Goods, and you see my son here, he's going to the barbershop with pink socks on, folks. You go to Dick's Sporting Goods and you can buy anything in pink for men's. He's playing basketball, he's got pink socks on, that was his high school. He went on to play for NYU. But he's wearing pink and nobody's laughing at him. When did that happen? The most feminine color in our society is now embraced by men and boys. Why? Because men who other men look up to, right, say that it's okay. Just like that. Social change occurred just like that. He goes to Dick's Sporting Goods and buys pink sneakers. They're not special order. They're right off the shelf. When did that happen? You didn't wear, when I was his age, I wore pink sneakers. I'm gonna be laughed at, called all kinds of things. He's in the AAU tournament in high school, and this group comes in wearing pink uniforms, and nobody's laughing at him. I think they won the tournament. All right, 2-minute video, and then I'll turn it back over to Ellie.
When I was a little kid, I was really good at just being me. But I grew distant from my true feelings. I was shaped by what society expected from me, holding on to my masculine traits because they were encouraged. I lost sight of my more sensitive qualities. I became disconnected from myself and then disconnected from others. I was taught to be in control of everything around me.
Come over here. No, come this way.
And that girls were not my equal. That would have devastating effects on my life and those around me. I responded to stress with anger. I hid my emotions. I felt the need to dominate and control others.
No, listen to what I'm telling you. I know what I'm talking about.
All of which was bad for my health. I reject those rigid notions of manhood. I never use violence. I value women, girls, and non-binary people. I speak out against injustice. Healthy manhood makes me happier and healthier. Now I'm more in touch with my emotions. I just feel a whole lot better. I value and respect all people. Healthy manhood prevents problems in my community. I can be myself. I can express my version of masculinity. I can create a world where all men and boys are loving and respectful, and all women and girls are valued and safe. When I was a little kid.
Okay. All right. So thank you all for your time. I'm going to put our information in the chat in case anybody wants to do any kind of follow-up. When we look at gender equity, we really as men have to take a real responsible role in making sure that we can use our influence, our platform in any way that we can, whether it's our community, whether it's our workplace, to make sure that equity occurs for those who are marginalized within that community. And it might be women, it might be people of color. So thank you all very much for your time. And I'll turn it over to you, Ellen.
Thanks, Ted. Your generosity of spirit is truly inspiring. And we thank you very much for just in that short period of time teaching us so much. So we appreciate you. And my intern Edie is going to put some of your links in the chat. This event kicks off a 30-day peer-to-peer fundraiser, 100 Men for Gender Equity. And I'm going to share my screen quickly. So we're trying to raise, oh, that didn't work, did it? we're trying to raise $10,000 in 30-day time frame. And what we're asking is for you, the men in this audience, to reach out to your networks, whether you want to pick up the phone, whether you want to see your friends on the soccer field, whether you want to make a video and post it on social media, to invite them to join you. So you can go to the website I put in the link. This is the fundraising page. You can create a team. We have prizes. You can donate individually. I know that many of you here already have donated, which we appreciate so much. So this is a call to you to go out, share the Male Ally Toolkit with your friends, talk to them about what healthy manhood means, talk to them about male allyship, and join us. Another way to get involved with us is to volunteer. Edie will also put that link in the chat for you. So men are welcome at Women's Fund of Rhode Island, and we need as many allies as possible. So thank you so very much. I want to give an extra special thank you to the men who helped make this event possible. Our committee, which includes Bryce and Jock and Adam Ramos and Adam Gardner and Ray Nunez, who with all the help of his wife also did all the beautiful graphics that you saw today. And of course, our board member, Kevin Mata. And I think that's it. So we'll hang out for a few minutes if you have questions. And I thank you again for being here. Look forward to seeing blowing the roof off our $10,000 goal. We're already at $4,000, so only $6,000 more to go. I am very confident we can do it. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we're deeply appreciative of you. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.